You know what's wild? Right now, as you're watching this, there are two countries making moves that nobody saw coming. Korea and Malaysia. And I'm not talking about who has better food or cooler cities. I'm talking about something way bigger. Something that's literally reshaping how the entire world works. And here's the crazy part. The country most people think is winning might actually be losing. Stick with me because what I'm about to show you will completely change how you see these two nations. Let me start with something that'll blow your mind. Malaysia just pulled off something that has Samsung, the Korean giant that basically runs Korea's economy, absolutely sweating. We're talking about the company that makes the phone probably sitting next to you right now, the company that's in 1 out of every 5 Korean households, the company that accounts for 1/5 of Korea's entire economy. And Malaysia just became a massive threat to them. But before you assume Korea is dominating, hold on, because the plot twist here is insane. Here's what most people don't know. Right now, in 2025, Malaysia is quietly becoming one of the most important countries in the entire global economy. Not through what you'd expect, like oil or tourism, but through something called semiconductors. These tiny chips that power literally everything. Your phone, your car, your refrigerator, those smart devices you have everywhere. Malaysia makes 40% of them. 40% of the entire world's semiconductor packaging and testing happens in this one country that most people barely think about when it comes to technology. Meanwhile, Korea has Samsung and SK Hynix, these absolute monsters of the chip industry. Korea makes the most advanced memory chips on the planet. The kind of chips that go into the most powerful computers, into AI systems, into everything cutting edge. On paper, Korea should be demolishing Malaysia in this race. Their technology is decades ahead. Their companies are worth hundreds of billions of dollars. Korean engineers are some of the most skilled in the world. So why am I saying Malaysia might be winning? Because something happened that nobody predicted. You see, for years, the world ran on a simple system. China made most of our stuff. Cheap labor, massive factories, everything flowing through Chinese ports. Korea was China's neighbor, perfectly positioned to benefit from this. Korean companies could easily work with Chinese manufacturers. Everything was smooth. But then the United States looked around and realized something terrifying. They were completely dependent on China for almost everything. And China was getting powerful. Really powerful. So America did something dramatic. They started what people call decoupling, fancy word for basically breaking up with China economically. They put restrictions on selling advanced technology to China. They pressured companies to move their manufacturing somewhere else. Anywhere else. And this is where Malaysia enters the story like a dark horse nobody saw coming. Companies started panicking. Where do we go? Moving to America or Europe is too expensive. India is developing but doesn't have all the infrastructure yet. Vietnam is great but it's small. And then they looked at Malaysia. Stable government. Educated workforce that speaks English. Already has tons of factories. Located perfectly in Southeast Asia where shipping is easy. And here's the kicker, Malaysia has been playing this game smart for decades without anyone really noticing. While everyone was watching China and Korea duke it out for tech supremacy, Malaysia quietly built relationships with everyone. American companies. Welcome. Chinese companies. Sure, come on in. European companies. We'd love to have you. Malaysian officials didn't pick sides. They just said, hey, whoever wants to manufacture here, we'll make it easy for you. No drama. No geopolitics. Just business. And now that the US and China are in this massive economic Cold War, suddenly Malaysia is the friend everyone wants. But here's where it gets really interesting, and this is the part that should make Korea nervous. It's not just about making stuff cheaper. Malaysia is actually moving up the value chain. Remember how I said they do 40% of the world's chip packaging and testing? That used to be considered the low-value part of making semiconductors. Korea and Taiwan made the actual chips, the expensive part, and Malaysia just put them in packages. Like Korea baked the gourmet cake and Malaysia just put it in a box. Not anymore. Malaysia is now getting into advanced packaging. This is the cutting-edge stuff. Three-dimensional chip stacking. Connecting multiple chips together in ways that make them faster and more powerful. This technology is so important that it's literally the future of computing. And companies are investing billions, with billions of dollars into building these advanced facilities in Malaysia. Intel just dropped billions on expanding their Malaysian operations. We're not talking about a small factory. We're talking about a massive commitment to making Malaysia a high-tech powerhouse. And Korea? Korea is watching all of this happen while dealing with their own problems. Samsung, their crown jewel, just had a year where their profits dropped dramatically. Not because they're making bad products. Samsung phones are still excellent. Their chips are still world-class. But the competition is brutal. Chinese companies are catching up fast. TSMC in Taiwan is dominating certain chip markets. And now manufacturing costs in Korea are through the roof. Korean workers are expensive. Real estate is expensive. Everything in Korea is expensive. So Samsung and other Korean companies have a choice. Stay in Korea and watch their costs keep climbing, or do what everyone else is doing and move manufacturing to cheaper countries. And guess where a lot of them are looking? Malaysia. The very country that's supposed to be competing with them is actually becoming their manufacturing base. It's like if McDonald's started relying on Burger King's kitchens to make Big Macs. Wild, right? But wait, because there's another layer to this that makes it even more complicated. Korea has something Malaysia desperately needs: cutting-edge technology and research. Malaysian factories are amazing at manufacturing, but creating the next generation of chip technology. That takes decades of research, billions in investment, and some of the smartest engineers on the planet. Korea has all of that. So in a weird way, these two countries need each other more than they compete. Korean companies design the chips, develop the technology, figure out how to make things smaller and faster. Then they partner with Malaysian facilities to actually produce them at scale. It's like Korea is the architect drawing up plans for an incredible building, and Malaysia is the construction company with all the workers and equipment to actually build it. Except Malaysia is getting really good at architecture too, and Korea is realizing they might need Malaysia's construction crews because building in Korea is too expensive. Now here's the part that should really make you think. Which country is actually winning? Korea has the prestige. The famous brands. The advanced technology. If you ask someone on the street which country is better at technology, they'll say Korea without hesitation. Samsung and LG are household names worldwide. Malaysia. Most people would struggle to name a single Malaysian tech company. But Malaysia is making money hand over fist right now. Their economy is growing faster than Korea's. Foreign investment is pouring in. They're creating hundreds of thousands of high-paying jobs. Young Malaysians who might have left to work in Singapore or Australia are staying home because there are good opportunities now. The Malaysian government is investing heavily in education, in infrastructure, in making their country even more attractive to global companies. Korea, meanwhile, has a problem that should terrify them. Their population is collapsing. Korean birth rates are the lowest in the entire world. There aren't enough young people to replace the older generation. In 20 years, who's going to work in Samsung's factories? Who's going to be the engineers and researchers? Korea is facing a demographic crisis that could undermine everything they've built. Malaysia's population is younger, growing, and eager to work in high-tech industries. And there's another advantage Malaysia has that nobody talks about. Diversity. Malaysia is made up of Malays, Chinese, Indians, and dozens of other ethnic groups. This means Malaysian companies can easily do business anywhere in Asia. Need to work with Chinese suppliers. Malaysians speak Mandarin. Need to work with Indian tech companies. Malaysians speak Tamil. Need to work with Western companies. Everyone speaks English. This cultural and linguistic flexibility is a superpower in a globalized economy. Korea is much more homogeneous. Korean companies sometimes struggle when they expand internationally because they're used to doing things the Korean way. There's even a term for it, pali culture. Everything fast, fast, fast. Hierarchy matters. You respect your elders and seniors. This works great in Korea but can clash with business cultures elsewhere. Malaysian companies are used to navigating different cultures because they do it every day at home. But let's not count Korea out yet, because they have something up their sleeve that could change everything. Korea is going all in on what they call the Korean wave, or Hallyu. You know BTS, right? Blackpink. Squid Game. Parasite winning Best Picture at the Oscars. Korean culture is absolutely dominating global entertainment right now. And this isn't just about music and movies. It's about soft power. It's about making people around the world think Korea is cool, innovative, cutting edge. When people think Korea is cool, they want Korean products. They want Samsung phones. They want Korean cars. They want Korean cosmetics. Korean food. This cultural influence translates directly into economic power. Malaysia has great food and beautiful beaches, but they don't have anything close to Korea's cultural dominance right now. And culture is something that's really hard to manufacture or copy. Plus, Korea is betting big on next-generation technology. Artificial intelligence. Quantum computing. Advanced robotics. Korea is investing massive amounts of money into being a leader in these fields. If they succeed, if Korean companies are the ones who crack the code on the next major technological revolution, then all the manufacturing advantages Malaysia has right now won't matter as much. Because Korea will own the patents, the intellectual property, the actual innovations that everyone else has to license. So we're back to the question, who's winning? And honestly, the answer is more complicated than you might think. If we're talking about right now, today, in 2025, Malaysia is definitely having a moment. They're the hot destination for manufacturing investment. Their economy is growing faster. They're creating more opportunities for their people. Companies that need to manufacture things are choosing Malaysia over Korea because it makes financial sense. But if we're talking about the next 20 or 30 years, Korea's advantages in research, technology, and cultural influence could be decisive. A country doesn't become a global tech leader by accident. It takes decades of investment, education, and determination. Korea has all of that. They've climbed from being one of the poorest countries in the world after the Korean War to being a high-tech powerhouse. That kind of institutional knowledge and capability doesn't disappear overnight. The real answer is that both countries are winning in different ways. Malaysia is winning the manufacturing game. They're becoming the factory floor of the high-tech world. Korea is winning the innovation game. They're pushing the boundaries of what's possible with technology. The question is which matters more in the long run. Here's what I think is going to happen, and this is where it gets really interesting. These two countries are going to become increasingly intertwined. More Korean companies will set up operations in Malaysia. More Malaysian engineers will train with Korean firms. There will be more partnerships, more joint ventures, more collaboration. Because in the modern global economy, no country can do everything alone anymore. The world is too complex. Technology is too advanced. Supply chains are too interconnected. Korea can't afford to ignore Malaysia's manufacturing capabilities. Malaysia can't afford to ignore Korea's technological expertise. They need each other, even if they're also competing with each other. It's cooperation and competition at the same time. And here's the final twist that brings this all together. China is watching all of this very carefully. Because what's happening between Korea and Malaysia is part of a bigger reshuffling of the entire global economy. As America and China decouple, every country has to figure out where they fit. Do they align with the US? With China? Do they try to stay neutral like Malaysia? Korea is in a particularly tough spot because they're a US ally, but China is their biggest trading partner. They can't afford to alienate either one. Malaysia has more flexibility because they're not formally allied with anyone. This geopolitical positioning might end up mattering more than technology or manufacturing capabilities. So the unexpected winner between Korea and Malaysia. It's not one or the other. It's the relationship between them. It's how these two very different countries are finding ways to work together in a world that's rapidly changing. Korea brings the innovation. Malaysia brings the execution. Together, they're shaping what the future of technology and manufacturing looks like. And that's something nobody predicted 10 years ago. Nobody thought Malaysia would become this important to the global tech industry. Nobody thought Korea would need to rely so much on manufacturing partnerships outside their borders. But that's exactly what's happening. The world changed, and these two countries adapted in ways that make them both winners, just in different ways. The real question isn't who's winning between Korea and Malaysia. The real question is whether they can both keep winning together as the world continues to change around them.